So I want to know what you did day one to develop the culture that you have now. Like that is important, more important than sometimes, you got to have the Jimmys and Joes. There's no doubt about it. The Jimmys and
Yep.
Joes are done.
Yep.
Also the leader of that ship that's making those Jimmys and Joes work. And that's you. And I'm curious on how you instilled your philosophy and culture.
I would love to talk through it. I think I will always plant my flag on the hill that says culture is the most important aspect of any program. And I think any coach that says he's getting cultured out or he's tired of hearing about, like, man, you're really missing the boat. And you can culture beat strategy and all that good stuff that coaches talk about, but it's real. I mean, I think when you're talking about building the literal fabric of your program, I mean, I always say platform. The culture is the platform at which we stand on, and so to take care of that, to build it with care, to have enough forethought to know long term, these are the things that are going to be important on a daily basis. And if we do that, it gives us an opportunity to build a program of legacy. And Tom, not to blow smoke, but like one in which you've built at Dubois. And so I think like when I got here, I think, one dynamic that I always talk about with and I had a phone call today with a first-year head coach, and he's building a program from literal scratch, like it's never existed. That dynamic's a little different than the one that I walked into. I walked into, not by much, year 7, they had just finished, but they had already been to 3 World Series. They were averaging, 50 wins a year. They were a top 5 national program. So there was a expectation around the program. But in 7 years, to be completely transparent, there wasn't a foundation that was built culturally. I could see the voids that were left that, hey, man, if we're talking about not just having really good teams, let's have a great program. Then there are things that we've got to establish and things that you want to be consistent year in and year out that over time, like I mentioned, they're going to give you a chance to build something of real depth. And I'm like the worst person to talk about this because I'm incredibly impatient, but I also had enough maturity to look at when I walked in, Tom, and I said, but I can't do it all in year 1. And that is the beauty of being a head coach. Before I went to ABCA, I tried to do it all in year 1. And I learned that lesson and went, wait a minute, play the long game. Let's make sure we systematically get this to where we want to go. And I never thought I could say this. I had a true 5-year plan. At the end of year 1, I wanted these things in place. Year 2, I knew we would, battle. I didn't know COVID was going to happen, but I knew we would battle some attrition and some new faces and my first recruiting class and those type of things. By year 3, we'd be a little more solidified, but I knew that years 4 and 5 were going to be the most telling. Those were going to be the work that had been done year in and year out. By 4, we should start actualizing it. And by year 5, it should be apparent to anybody paying attention. This is who the Grizzlies are. This is what they're about. And this is how we do things. So I took that patient approach of making sure that of the most important things are how we operate on a daily basis, what's our style of play, and then how are we going to move throughout our program within all those different dynamics. And that doesn't sound like a lot. I didn't think there were a lot. And then we get to COVID and one of our returning players, Tom, we sat down and I said, well, what do you think we really accomplished in year 1? And he goes, Coach, you changed everything. And I go, no, I really didn't. I only changed these things. And he goes, but Coach, when you didn't have anything there, you changed everything. And it went, oh my goodness. So again, it just kind of gives you that reinforcer of, you've got to look at who do you want this thing to become, and then you make systematic moves that give you a chance to kind of see that path unfold. I feel like, and again, I'm going back to my conversation today, you just can't fix it in year 1. It won't materialize in year 1. There's way too many things that are going to come up that are in your control or out of your control. But if you see it for the big picture, again, you can make those things materialize, but you've got to have some patience and you're going to ride the roller coaster and sort of see it all the way through. But it's one thing, again, I know we'll get into some details. Also, don't get lost in the fact that it's all culture. A lot of it is also environment. And I think when you're meticulous about the environment that you want to create, because that's actually the living, breathing element of your culture that people feel. If Tom, you took a flight to Lawrenceville and you walked into our classroom session and watched us practice, you would feel our environment before you ever knew how to define our culture. And so it was, making sure like long term, we want to be about this, but on a daily basis, these are the things that we want to create and how we want it to look and how we want it to feel. And I think once you start balancing those two, I think, again, we're kind of reaping the benefits here in year 6 of what we've created.
Yeah, right, I'm gonna jump in, Tom. I got to ask a quick.
You got to raise your hand, Eric. Come on, man.
That's right. I apologize. Right.
Go sit in the hallway.
So you had mentioned you were talking to a new coach, first time coach. What are the odds that he has any idea what you're talking about?
Well, it was actually better than I thought. Now, this is a guy that's been coaching for a number of years, like travel ball, and he's had an academy, and he had some real good feel. But like Tom, is you'll get fired up about this. It was really about he wanted how would you attack recruiting in this landscape that we're in now. He asked me about classroom sessions. He's like, man, I see you do. We got to do something like that. So how do you do it? And I think it was more about the cultural piece of, well, how should I attack this? If you were in my shoes, how would you attack it? And it was really, and shout out to Mick, man. It was some serious like maturity and perspective. And then for me, it was like, no, he wants to build a program. He doesn't just want to like do it for 2 or 3 years and have a couple good teams and bounce and get a new job. This dude wants to get invested in building something of worth. And shoot, man, you're tickling my strings on that one.
So like, there's so many questions I have for you when you were talking about that with
give it up.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's all good stuff. I mean, I'm curious. You said you came in, the program had some kind of success, and how did you